First, I'd like to ask you a question, just to think about a question that I've been thinking of for the last couple of years, actually. How in the world did 6 completely unexperienced guys, without any funding or financial backing or anything whatsoever, aged 21 to 24, start and build a company which today is 150 people, with customers like Sony Ericsson, Samsung, Nokia, Google, Motorola, and whose technology has been shipped in 350 million phones? I can be honest and say that I've been thinking about this question for the last couple of years, and I wish I could tell you I knew the answer. And I think I know the answer because I had to kind of prepare it. And I think the answer boils down to quite a lot of luck. Because honestly, having done that journey, I would say that I don't have a recipe, I have no clue how we did it, but somehow we end up here. And I thought that I would sort of summarize the 3 things I've learned, that if I would ever start another company, there are at least those 3 things I've learned over these years. And I'm going to share those 3 with you here. So first of all, I'll be very, very honest with you. TET was founded by accident. The company we founded, the Astonishing Tribe, was completely an accident that we founded. Not a bad accident, but it was just random chance that it happened. The 6 founders had worked together for, well, 10 years or something, in different kind of hobby projects, and especially a lot of digital arts. And around 2001, we all worked together for a company called PicoFun, which did mobile gaming. But by the mid-2001, PicoFun decided to step up the value chain, which is nicely called to sack a lot of people and change what you do. So they stopped being a game developer and started being a game publisher, which meant that we realized that we were out of jobs. And we realized that those days, even if we were doing this in parallel with our university studies, we realized that a day would come when our university studies are over and we're no longer employed by this company, and we realized this sort of gang of 6, we really liked working together. We would spread like seeds of dandelions to be employed by the Ericssons and Sony Ericssons of the region, which are massive organizations with regular office hours and bosses and managers to report to. And we wouldn't be working together in small agile teams, we wouldn't be hacking and slashing together demos, and we would not be in control of what we did. So we felt we had to stop this, we had to do something. And I think what we really wanted to do, if we didn't have to care about the money part, we would build youth recreation center for our own age. A place where you just hang out and like meeting your friends. There's just that problem about money. And again, we were 21 to 24, so we didn't burn that lot of money, but we needed something. So we started talking to friends and whatever people we knew in our network and tried to find some projects that we could work with. And we hadn't decided to start a company yet, but we just thought that might be an idea. And we found 3 different projects, luckily. One was doing the special effects for a movie, a local Swedish movie. One was doing some consultancy for a mobile imaging company called Scalado. And the third was building a pretty big arts installation at a festival in Stockholm. And this felt great. We had 3 projects. And we actually planned to start multiple companies. I mean, we kind of are 6, not really thinking of working together, more like working in the same room. But that we were so scared off and so put off by the whole idea of all the administration and responsibility of having a company of our own individually. So we felt, we'll just bolt ourselves together and start one big company. And sort of juvenile as we were, I think that the best outcome we could envision was us with a lot of computer stuff and gear and not having to pay a lot of taxes to get those. Again, we were 21 to 24. Because we realized if we would employed, we would get our salary and there would be a lot of tax in between. So buying computers would not be that much computers. So we had a great plan. We'd work, we'll invoice people, and we'll buy computers for the money. And eventually the money's going to run out, and then we're going to be employed by a Sony Ericsson or whatever. But it was a good plan. But I think the interesting thing was that we had one strategical asset which was kind of unique. We really, really, really followed our passion. We were sure that we only worked with stuff we were really, really passionate about. If there was any kind of project which we felt, again, it was only money. We felt we'd rather work with something, again, working with arts. It's not a well-paid occupation, really, but we were passionate about it. So we started following our passion and really chasing the project that we were most passionate about, that still gave some kind of salary. But I think that what we really learned there and then was that being passionate about something does not mean that you find it fun to work with. And I think this sounds really strange, but it took me a couple of years learning that. In 2006, I was very close to founding a company with Sofia Svantesson, who's the CEO today and one of the founders of Ocean Observations in Stockholm. It was a really, really brilliant idea. It was a wine community where you had your mobile phone, and whenever you drank a wine that you liked, you took a picture of the wine and you rated it. And there was this magical mathematical engine in the background trying to calculate what wines you would like, and you would recommend more wines. And I wrote the business plan together with Sofia. I was really, really passionate about the idea. We had the first presentation for a VC. I was really passionate about the idea. And at the end of that presentation with the VC, the guy from, I think it was Index Ventures, asked me, so what about your roles? What roles are you going to have? And Sofia, being more of a designer and me being an engineer originally, I realized that I'm going to be like head of development or like the CTO of the company, I guess. And I really didn't want to reply that, so I felt, okay, I'll just try to sort of hush it over. But when we got out of that meetings, I realized, no, I don't want to work as head of development. I like working with sort of seeing opportunities, starting stuff, meeting customers, and actually absolutely not doing stuff, which you have to do if you, are head of development or something. So I realized, even though I was really passionate about it, I wouldn't find the work very fun. And that was very perplexing for me, and it was a very interesting thing to learn. And I think the second thing that actually boils down to is this second super smart company strategy that TET always had over the years, is that we always told ourselves that we would focus on having fun. Really make sure that we had fun. And in the beginning, it was fairly easy because we were 6 founders. So one's hell happened to be the other's one's cup of tea. So it kind of worked out in the beginning. But as we grew, stuff changed. And we reached a point pretty soon where we realized we have to recruit our bosses. Because frankly, we didn't like being bosses. So it started out very soon by us recruiting a CFO, somebody who handled economics. And the reason was actually very simple. We had no clue of structure and no clue of economics. So we hired him. That was a really smart move. Just a year later, we hired our CTO, Chief Technology Officer, because we realized we don't really have a clue about the mobile industry. So we got to find somebody who has. And of course, he became kind of our boss, in a sense. But that was great. And just a year later, we recruited our head of sales, which to me was a great relief because that was kind of what I was doing. And I hated, and since it was kind of my cup of tea and the other one hated it, and I hated it, you can realize how much those 5 hated it. I hated haggling with customers about legal text and money. I would just be fine with walking into a customer and say, yeah, you want our software? That's great. You want to pay us money? Please do. Here's your draft agreement. Fine, I'll sign it. Thanks. Let's start doing stuff together. And that turned out, as we learned over the first year of TET's life, that was not a very smart thing to do. When we got a head of sales, he knew how to haggle, which made my life at least a lot easier. And then finally, 2007, we recruited our CEO because we realized we woke up every goddamn morning feeling shit stressed about our work, all the responsibility and everything. And I actually remember the moment where this turned on, this responsibility thing. I think it was, I don't know the date, but I think it was 2004. We recruited the first person that was not a close friend. We didn't know this guy before. He was called Magnus. Magnus is 10 years older than I am, and he still works at TET. And I remember when we sat in the interview and realized we really want to hire this guy. Not only was he a computer programmer, he had also danced in an opera. That was a sort of 2 great things to have done in life. So we felt we got to have this guy. But at the end of the interview, he said something that scared the shit out of me and my co-founder who sat there. He looked me in the eyes and said, I know this is kind of a temporary employment, and I really like it. I have this offer from Sony Ericsson that I'm thinking of pursuing, but I really like your company. But the thing is, we're having a kid. So for me to be kind of employed by sort of having some kind of shaky employment would be really scary. So I would really like you to make sure that I get to work here. And my co-founder and I, as we always did in front of customers or whatever, we lied. We just said, yeah, Magnus, of course, we're going to do our best. Of course, this is not a shaky company. I mean, we know our stuff. We just hired a CFO, by the way. He's great. He knows economics. And this was the day it turned on, when we realized people have to have their salary. They have kids and houses and goddamn. I mean, this was not a youth recreation center anymore. So that's what I've really, and actually, sorry, these people, the CFOs and CEOs and all the other employees of TAT, those are the people that make that company great. Those are the people that make that company a reliable supplier, a company, an employer, and not just a fun place to work. So make sure that you remember that. A lot of people highlight the founders, the Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos of the world. They might not be the people who make that show actually go around, as with TAT. So the first thing I've learned, actually, is to make sure that if I ever found some new company, I'm going to make sure that I do it with something I'm really passionate about, and hopefully have some skill in it, but of less importance than I'm passionate about it, and that I would find the day-to-day job really interesting, and I would love doing it. That's the first thing I've learned over my years with TAT. And I think it's interesting also to view when we started meeting mobile industry. As I said, we started working with all kinds of projects when we sort of boiled them down, because we found that doing what we do today, mobile user interfaces, was the area which we found most fun, but also the area which we had least haggling and fighting over invoices with customers. So it ended up being the place where we actually had most fun. But it started out by Sony Ericsson calling us one day. It was the end of 2002, and Sony Ericsson had just built their first color screen phone. They used to have text phones. I don't know if you remember these text phones. They had text. Now they have color screens. Our kids will never have seen a text screen in their life, but fax machines maybe, but anyways. So they called us up and said, we got this color screen. We built this phone, and it was a living nightmare. We know that two of you, this guy that called was an old school friend of ours, we know that two of you guys love hacking and doing crazy stuff with game consoles, doing amazing graphic stuff. Can't you help us with getting some performance with this next phone we're doing called T610? We think it's going to be good. Please help us out. At first we said, well, yeah, sure, blah, 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 as we always do as again, we lie to our customers. Then we hung up, and when we gathered all the 6 people, the 6 founders in the room, and we said, they want us to work with mobile phones. We kind of said when we founded the company that we would not work with mobile phones. We had that whole experience with Picofun, who took the step up the value chain and sacked us all. Do we actually want to do this again? What the hey? We did it. Let's do some cool stuff for them. So we sat working day and night until the day the meeting came, when these really, managers from Sony Ericsson, we didn't really never met a manager before, so we didn't really know what they do. So these guys came along, and we bought lunch baguettes for our last money we had. We thought they at least have lunch, these managers. So in they came, and we had prepared 4 different phones with really amazing stuff, actually. And they looked at them, and they just said, shoot, this is, wow. Oh, yeah, we want to work with you. And we felt, yeah, that was great. That's how sales should be. They call you, then they get there, you buy them a baguette, some upfront fee, but that's okay. And then they like your stuff, and then they go back, and then you start working with them. That's perfect. And then, of course, agreements and stuff happen, but it was fairly nice. And I'm sure that anybody who advised companies, including myself, if they would ask me if they're ready to meet a customer of that size, of that dignity, at the time we were, of the immaturity we were, I think most advisors would say, no, please, catch a smaller fish and work your ways upward. But I know today that going out there, meeting customers all too early, and just showing them prototypes is the absolute best thing to do, because they know better than you what they're actually looking for. And I think even more so, I learned that at the scariest trip I've done in my whole life. It was a couple of years later, 2005, Samsung called us up, or actually we called somebody and then they called us up and said, we want to work with you. We said, sure, of course, we want to work with you too. You're really big, you're in Korea, that sounds great. We kind of liked Korea as well. We really want to work with them. And then they said, but we've thought about this. You're probably just vassals to Sony Ericsson. You're never going to focus on Samsung, will you? Well, we didn't know, so we said, well, sure, let us show that we really love Samsung and that we're going to do cool stuff for you. So they said, yeah, sure, you're going to do the best show you ever can for our CEO. Whoa, the CEO. We never even met a VP, whatever that is at Sony Ericsson. Now we're going to meet like the guy or the gal. We knew it was a guy though. And we said, sure, we'll come and do the best show, whatever, for your CEO. That's going to be great. And they said, yeah, perfect. The meeting is set to be in Eilat. And I said, sure, great. We'll see you in Eilat. And I hang up the phone. It's like, where the friggin' is Eilat? So I Googled it, and it was in Israel. Okay. We were already kind of excited that we had to work with Samsung, and now we were also shit scared because we were going to Israel. And the problem was not just that it was Israel. The problem was that Israel and Egypt had kind of a quarrel at the time, kind of a big quarrel, and Eilat is on the border to Egypt. I tried talking to the Samsung guys again, but no, the CEO was going to be in Israel. So we went to Israel. And after having a taxi driver who wanted us to drive through Gaza and eventually getting on the plane, not having to go on a taxi through Gaza, we got to Eilat. And we were standing there outside the meeting room, my co-founder and I, again, of course, really shit scared. We had a laptop and we had a couple of phones with us, and the doors opened and we walked in, and there was this massive table. And with like all these managers and VPs and what have you, and in the center there was this kind of short and angry looking guy who we realized was the CEO, who we were going to do this show for. Felt great. We kind of forgot that we were in Israel for at least 15 minutes, which was great. We plugged in the beamer, started up, and I mean, we had prepared ourselves. We had unique selling point, we had advantages, we had software architectures, we had smart bullet points, we had really great pictures, we had everything a presentation would ever need. It was amazing. They could absolutely understand why we were great. And we turned on the computer for the PowerPoint, and the CEO stood up and said, "Turn off the computer! Show me your phones!" Show me your phones? Okay. We unplugged the computer and walked over, kind of sweaty, kind of scared. And this short Asian guy started to play with these demos we had on our phones, like pass them around. We were sitting there, shit scared, like, I think you, sorry, can I, there, you're back again. Sorry, you happened to exit the application. Oh, sorry, again, I'll show you. Please like us. When the CEO had stood there, played a couple of minutes with our demos, he took my co-founder by the shoulders, grabbed him hard, looked him straight into the eyes, and said, "Who is the best phone manufacturer in the world?" And my co-founder stood there going, "Samsung?" And we were sent out. And we realized, oh, did that go wrong? Did that go right? What happened? But when we were walking out the door, the VP sourcing stood up quickly, nodded at us, I was going, "I'll send you agreement." Like, okay, great, thanks, bye. We realized the boss was completely immune, as all bosses in computer games are. They always get some kind of immunity. They're always some kind of immune to fire, some immune to water, bullets, whatever. This guy was immune to PowerPoint. How could we have known? But the only thing that saved us was that we had these prototypes. So again, the second thing I've learned is to build prototypes, because it's a lot cheaper than building full products, and showing them to customers all too early. And then finally, I would say that building TET has not been a vie en rose. We used to say that Saturdays and Sundays were the best days to work because customers didn't call and nobody disturbed you. And I would say that we've lost a couple of battles. I think one of the nastiest battles we lost were when Symbian, a British company who was sort of the entry point to Nokia, the big crown at the time, asked us that they wanted us to do stuff for them, which was really, really exciting. It was just that it was not a prototype. They asked us to do what the British lawyer called a statement of work. The statement of work, for you who don't know, is a document telling you in text how you're better than competition. We like doing prototypes. So we filled out this document page by page, and we spent approximately 1 million Swedish krona worth of time of describing why we were better than competition, because Symbian had found a small consultancy company who would do the same thing that our product would do. And we lost that deal. And it was really, really, really sad. And that was the first time during the whole time that I saw one of my co-founders cry over work. Because we worked so hard and really wanted that deal. And I think few understand how lonely it is to build and start a company. I think a lot of people look at the Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos and Ingvar Kamprads of our time and look amazing. They never have customers shouting at them. They never have Monday mornings even. I mean, it's just pleasurable downhill from there. But I don't know, I think they actually do have customers shouting at them. But even more so, I know that getting to that point, they had a lot of customers shouting at them. And I think my savior of these years have been my 5 wives. Because that's what I've realized my co-founders are. They're kind of like my 5 wives. Whatever decision I have to do, thinking of doing another company, thinking of changing the logotype, thinking of changing an office, I have to consult these 5 people who have different opinions all the time. But just like any spouses, they provide comfort. And I think if I ever start another company again, I'm going to make sure that I found it with people that I could celebrate with, that I could fight with, that I can cry with, but also people who work really, really hard and don't give up, just as this has been on TAT. So to sum it up, I would say that I think you should try to find passion and work with what you love doing. I think you should prototype your way to what the customers will be wanting to pay for and leave perfection by the door. And finally, I would say that you should co-found the company with people who could be your best friends forever. Thank you.